Hello and thank you for joining me today. I'm Jan Clothier from Thinking Stamping and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in New Zealand. Today I'm sharing with you this card made for the latest colour challenge at As You See It, and the challenge colours were Crumb Cake, Evening Evergreen, Soft Succulent and Calypso Coral. And so for this card I've chosen to use this Nature's Harvest set. It's part of a bundle. Comes with dies that match the stamps and a number of other bits and pieces, and some of those we'll be using in the card. And the sentiment is from Best Year, which is a sentiment only set. And of course one of the great beauties of a sentiment only set is that it extends the versatility of all your other sets by giving you a whole range of different things that you can use with your existing images. So let's get started. So I started with a crumb cake card base, and I'm sure you know, if you've watched me before, that most of my card bases are 14.8 centimetres by 10.5 centimetres, because that's the width of a piece of A4 paper halved. So give it a nice crease with the bone fold, pop it aside. I've got two pieces of basic white, and they are 1/2 centimetre smaller than the card front, so 14.3 centimetres tall and 10 centimetres wide. One is for the inside of the card, and I've just used that stamp again and coloured it, and one is the base of the card front. I've got another piece of basic white, which is also 14.3 centimetres tall, but it is only 9 centimetres wide, and as you can see I've already embossed it. The folder that I used is the Time Worn Type, which is a folder that I really love, and I hope it lasts us I hope it's around for a long time because I really like using it. So there's that, and I've got another piece of basic white to stamp the flower stamp image on, to colour out and cut. And then I've used a piece of soft succulent to create that die cut. I've already done the die cut here, and it uses out of the harvest dies which go with the Nature's Harvest set. This die makes that beautiful wheat sheaf. Now the sentiment, as I said to you before, is from Best Year, and I have already stamped it in crumb cake, and the frame for that comes from this set, the painted labels dies, and it is that little die there that I used for that. And I like the way it gives you that nice little etched edge for a bit of interest, so we'll just pop that over there for later. So this embossed piece is, as I said to you before, 9 centimetres wide, and what I'm going to do is cut it into 3 centimetre wide strips. Now usually I cut and then emboss, but in this instance I haven't. I guess I just took my chances on it. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach those to the card front. Now, I'm going to do the outside edges first, because that way I've got a better chance of seeing where the middle is and getting the middle evenly placed. So, a little bit of glue. To attach that, and I'm just going to check by looking at the back that I haven't got any overhang. Nope, that looks good. Now I'm going to take this outside edge, add a bit of glue, attach it, and again, I'm just going to check that it isn't overhanging. Nope. And then the middle piece. And I'm going to, if you do the middle piece last, or in anything where you've got 3 parts really, doing the outside edges and then the middle maximises your chances of getting your gaps even. And the glue gives us a bit of wiggle room. Okay, so that later on, that will attach there. Now, I'm going to stamp this lovely flowery image. I actually don't know what these flowers are called. I'm wondering if they're echinacea flowers, but I don't know, I'm not particularly botanical. So, I've just used tuxedo black for this onto plain basic white card because I intend to colour it with my stamping blends. Now, if you don't have stamping blends and you were going to use your stamp pads as watercolour, then you would need to stamp that image in Stays On ink and do it on watercolour paper or shimmery white cardstock. But since I am using blends, the tuxedo black ink is fine for that. Now, I'm not going to show you all the colouring in, but I am just going to show you what I did, talk you through what I did. I used the crumb cake, as you can see, for the flower heads, the calypso coral for the petals, and I mixed the greens together for the stems. So, I don't know about you, but when I'm colouring with blends, I start with the lighter colour, and I give the area that I intend to colour a once over in the light. And, I did doing that little bit. I'm just sort of stippling that. Okay, and then I come in with the darker colour in the places where I want to have shadows or accents. And so along the bottom and around the sides, I want to make it look shadowy. You see, I find that quite harsh. So what I do next is I then come back in with my light and blend over the transition area to sort of smooth out. So instead of getting that harsh line between the darker and the lighter colour, it sort of smooths out a little bit. And so that's the method that I've used for all the different colour areas. Light, add in the accents in the dark, and then go over it again with the light to smooth it out. And in the manner of all good cooking shows, here is one that I prepared earlier. So I coloured it in, and then I used the matching die cut from the Harvest dies there to just die cut it out. So we've now got, we'll pop that aside for some other project. We're pretty much up to assembly. Okay, so now I'm going to take my card front and I'm going to add on the stem. That's going to go on later. Now, to add that on, quite a nice way when you've got a little fiddly bit of die cutting like this, is I'm going to put it on my rubber mat. I'm going to use a little bit of glue over there, and I'm just going to get an old piece of sponge, and I'm just going to dab. Oops, didn't quite have enough glue, so we'll have a little bit more. Okay, just going to dab that on, and then I'm going to pick it up. Whoops. Carefully. I'm going to pick it up carefully. And then I'm going to pop it in place where I want it, here on my front. Okay, and then you'll see that I've added in some twine, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out roughly where I want to put my sentiment, which is there. I'm going to add in some tape. Oh, lost control of my thread. I'm going to put in a bit of stamping seal, and the purpose of that is to act like tacking pins or tacking stitches. So I'm now going to attach my linen thread temporarily. I'm going to just tack it, come over, I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal to just hold it in place. Oops, better make sure it's straight. Okay, and I come back, and then I'm just going to turn it around. And the reason I'm doing it like this is not only does it save you some twine, but it also reduces the amount of bulk you've got going underneath your card. So now I'm just going to make that straight. And now when I attach it to the card front, I'm going to make sure I put glue at the ends, because that Stampin' Seal wasn't there to hold the glue for hold the twine, the linen twine there forever. It was to hold it in place while I worked out where it ought to go. So now we can attach. Is that straight? No, it's not. And so I've still got, and the reason I know it's not straight is because I've lined up the card with the lines on the grid paper, and now I can see that that just needs to come up again. And that's the other advantage of the using the linen, using the Stampin' Seal and then the glue, because I had a chance to straighten it up before everything's set solid. Okay, now my lovely little die cut flower, and you can see how the blends come through, which is why you must always do your colouring, blending colouring on top of some scrap paper and not on your dining room table. I'm going to add in some dimensionals because I want it popped up. And you'll know that I do like to use plenty of dimensionals because I do not like my raised up elements to sag. So I'm going to use a mixture of minis and standard dimensionals until I'm happy. Oops. That all of this is going to stand up for me. I think I can have another one here. It'll hide a big one. And if I can get it in there, I have one there. Okay. Now we'll flick off the backing. Oops. And okay, now we'll just use the tweezers and we will find out where we want that, which is just there, and we'll pop it in place. And now we're going to do similar to that. We're going to go, okay, well, that is on a bit that's already dimensionaled. So we really only need dimensionals down at this end. So I'm going to pop a couple down there. And up at this end, I'm just going to put a bit of glue. So we will pop that there. Now if I line it up with the lines on the grid paper, I've got a much better chance of making sure that I have that straight. Now, back here on my bow, I've got the twine, and now I'm going to add in the bow. And I do like my bows to be quite generous. Now, on the sample card, I've put the bow at that end, but I think I could put it in. No, well, perhaps we'll go for that again. No, we'll do it this end. Okay. And that's the kind of nice thing about making your own cards. You can sort of change things up as you go. Going, well, I like it that end. Okay, so we've got a nice little swoosh going on there. And you can kind of like tutu it around until you get it how you want it. Well, in fact, I might even start that again. that's better. Now, will I cut it shorter? Well, perhaps it is a little bit extravagant, so a bit of a thing, but it's really up to you how short you cut the tails or how long you leave them. And then to finish off, I'm going to add in some of these 2021 to 23 in colour jewels. And I'm going to add in the evening evergreen ones because I think they're particularly opulent looking. So we'll just take your pick tool and we will add in, or perhaps we'll have two large, a large there, and a small one. And you know that you generally speaking, you add your embellishments in odd numbers, so 3 or 5. 7 is getting a little excessive, but you know, if you like 7, go for 7. Okay, so that is the card front. Now, as I said, in the sample card that I made before, I've just stamped and coloured. I always say to my people in class, you know, when you are doing your inside, you can experiment. You can do pretty much whatever you like, because if it goes wrong, just turn your page over or start again. So I'm just going to go for a simpler treatment of this one, and I'm just going to use a plain black image, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a glue and add it into the centre. Now, if you like the look of the plain black and white, then do that. If you'd prefer to colour it in, then by all means do that. If you were using your inks, you might have to make your inside either an entire watercolour piece, or you could use a plain piece of basic white, and then you'd have to perhaps do the image on watercolour paper, watercolour it in, die cut it, and then add that on. So it just depends what colouring medium, how you're using, as to what you might do on the inside. So anyway, so that's my card using crumb cake, soft succulent, evening evergreen and calypso coral. If you'd like more information about this card, or you'd like to contact me, there will be details on my blog and my Facebook page. The details of those will pop up on the end card and are also in the video description. And if you've liked what you've seen, then of course you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.